The movie ultimately falls apart for me when Bond confronts Gustav Graves, who he's figured out is Colonel Moon.
Colonel. At last. I was beginning to think you'd never guess.
It plugs into the whole keeping Bond alive trope that I mention every fucking episode, but it doesn't work. Unfortunately, I wish it would have, but in this movie, it doesn't.
Oh, but there have been compensations. Like watching you flail around in your ignorance, granting you life day by day just to see if you get wise. It's been fun.
He's keeping Bond alive for entertainment, I guess, because remember, Bond is betrayed.
My son had an ally in the West for the last time. Who was it?
Same person who betrayed me.
Then, and like the only clever part of the movie is that the same person who betrays him, they set him up, right, to go to prison. They set him up again to get him out of prison in exchange for Zhao.
They concluded you cracked under torture and were hemorrhaging information. We had to get you out.
That's very clever. They use Bond to get Zhao traded back to North Korea, literally adding insult to injury. That's all well and good. But then when Bond goes and confronts Graves, Graves is like, yeah, it's been fun watching you day to day helplessly. That doesn't make sense. And at that point, what I wish they would have done is revert back to goofy assassins. As much as I talked shit about how every Roger Moore movie was sending a bunch of goofy assassins to kill Bond, and it's like, how does Bond just keep defeating all these assassins? And why doesn't Hugo Drax just walk up to him and just shoot him in the face? It would have been appropriate if Gustav Graves actually wanted Bond dead and tried to keep making that happen. Instead, the only explanation we get is, it's been fun watching you and your ignorance.
What you're saying is that Gustav Graves should have had more of like a revenge. Right?
Yes.
Because it makes more sense that he is like, well, but it doesn't, it makes sense and it doesn't make sense. And let me throw this out here. Let me throw this all out. So Bond kills Colonel Moon. So Colonel Moon should want, as Gustav Graves, should want to be like, I want to kill Bond.
Yes.
But what doesn't make sense is that in a weird way, it's a part of the plan because he wants to be Gustav Graves. But at the same time, it's like competing ideas because now it's like, well, Bond, you actually gave him an alibi. At the same time, he's like, but I want to kill Bond because you got rid of my life as an Easterner, as somebody from North Korea. So it's almost like posing ideas. The two scenes I wish were there is just either him, Colonel Moon, saying Gustav Graves, saying, I want to thank you, Bond. You actually helped my plan. Because he did. He helped him in that, like, he gave him an out to be like, I'm dead, but now I can start this new life and start this whole plan.
Because especially if he had already had all of this in the works, how does he get from where he is to where he wants to be for the plan? Bond helps him in that respect.
But yeah, he respected him and like giving him like, yeah, you gave me a fresh start, Bond, like something like that.
Yeah, you're certainly correct, but it's not like those ideas are conflicting because, if they did it right, they would have tied Bond to the laser chair thing and then allowed Gustav to give his Goldfinger-esque speech saying, I gotta hand it to you, Bond. I gotta thank you for allowing my rebirth, but I'm also gonna kill you because I hate you.
I want to say this. Instead of Bond sleeping with Frost, Bond is in Jinx's shoes, tied to the table with the lasers. Jinx saves him, but somehow incorporate that with Bond figuring out, oh, this is that Moon guy.
I like it. I already like it more. Jinx saves him so that we like her more. And then later when Bond saves her, they can have that cute moment where they say they're even. Perfect. What it comes down to is there should have been a plan. Like Bond is a liability. Now, the interesting parts of the movie, especially upon rewatching it multiple times, is that when they meet at that sword fighting club, he's like, hey, have we met before? And Bond's like, I would have remembered. And he's
That's
like,
what I was going to say. Is he
That's
putting on an act or does he actually not remember?
No, he's
knows.
putting on an act. And that's
knows.
interesting. When you watch it again, the first time you're like, oh, it's just like this Gustav guy. Second time you're like, holy shit. This is the first time these guys are reuniting.
And Mr. Bond. James Bond.
And they even cut to Miranda in the middle of his famous introduction, you know, because she knows who he is. So it's just kind of funny because it's maybe the first time in history that Bond's classic intro is being completely undermined by overconfidence because he's literally staring both of his nemesis in the face like an idiot. Like he looks like a fool to them. And you can tell that Gustav is loving it.
Bond. James Bond.
Have we met before?
Oh, I think I'd remember.
That's why he's so aggressive in that scene.
Yeah, he's like, I've been this close and he didn't even recognize me. That's awesome. All of that is awesome, but it's not utilized at all. What it should have led up to is some kind of ultimate revenge scheme where Colonel Moon / Graves invites Bond to his ice palace with some kind of ultimate revenge in mind. Instead, we don't get anything. We just get this odd scene where he's like, I got my own MI6 agent and I have her sex.
Sex.
like that whole scene, it's kind of awkward as Miranda's just standing there.
When I arranged for that fatal overdose for the true Victor at Sydney, I won myself my very own MI6 agent.
She took the gold at Sydney.
By default, as I remember.
Default? The one who beat her OD'd on steroids.
All of Graves' dialogue should have been given to Miranda, where she's like, yeah, he's the one who got me that medal in Sydney and all that. And instead, Graves is like in her ear, and Graves is like, I have her sex now.
Sex.
But the thing with Miranda Frost that I find is very confusing is her motivation to
betray her country.
It doesn't
What is she getting out of it?
Like she doesn't like what it was cool about Goldeneye is that we understood that Alex Trevelyan's parents were
Leanne's Cossacks.
You knew, didn't you? And we knew that, and so we were like, okay, it makes sense why he portrayed London. Miranda Frost doesn't really get a reason why she portrays.
She gets a gold medal, and that's it. Like, once she has her gold medal,
she's
it's
an
like,
Olympian.
what else is there?
Watching and talking about this movie makes me want to drink excessively.
Yeah.
So there is another aspect. There's a part of the plot. This is very specific to the plot that I rolled my eyes and I was like, wait, that's the linchpin to the plot?
We wouldn't have had a mole at all if you'd disclosed the fact that Miss Frost and Moon were on the Harvard fencing team together.
Wait, what? Like, you're telling me that MI6 missed?
No, isn't she accusing the Americans of not knowing?
I know, but that doesn't make any sense because even then it's like she's a MI6 operative. They should have known that as a part of her backstory. Yeah. They're like, yeah, isn't it a little weird that you're on the fencing team with one of North Korea's general's sons who we've already had like an issue with Bonds, like that didn't cross anybody's radar. Like, do you not see how that's an issue? Like, okay, let's backtrack. Hold on. I want to backtrack for a second.
Okay.
I'm a little drunk.
How many of those have you had? How many of those have you had?
I've had 4 of them. I'm on my 5th one. Okay. I still have 2 more to go, brother. Let me put this out here.
I'm drunk.
I think that Goose.
I'm just enjoying this filming as much as I can.
Whatever you say about Jinx, I don't care. You know how in Goldeneye we were finding things to argue about because we know that movie's so good? This movie we're finding things to argue about because this movie's so bad. That being said,